Have you ever looked at your bank account and felt something that wasn't exactly fear, but wasn't sadness either? Maybe it happened after losing a job, watching a dream home slip away because interest rates changed, selling investments at the worst possible time, realizing retirement feels farther away than it did 5 years ago. Most people call it stress. I don't think that's what it is. I think many of us are grieving, not because someone died, but because a version of our future did, and that's strange, because we openly talk about grief after losing people. We talk about heartbreak after relationships end, but when money quietly takes away the life we imagined, we rarely have words for that feeling. So instead, we tell ourselves to work harder, stay positive, or make better financial decisions. But you can't solve grief with productivity. You have to understand it first. That's the conversation we're avoiding. Because financial grief isn't really about money. It's about the future money promised us. When most people think about financial problems, they imagine numbers. Debt, inflation, housing prices, investment returns. But the numbers themselves usually aren't what hurts the most. It's what those numbers represent. A delayed family. A canceled vacation you've dreamed about for years. Parents you wanted to support but can't. The freedom to leave a toxic job. The confidence to start a business. Money is rarely just money. It's possibility. And when possibility disappears, we experience loss. Psychologists often describe grief as our response to losing something meaningful. We normally associate that with death, but grief can also follow the loss of identity, relationships, health, or expectations. Financial setbacks often combine all of them. Imagine someone who spent 10 years saving for a home, then prices rise faster than their income. Suddenly, they aren't just priced out of a market, they're grieving the version of adulthood they spent years working toward. Or think about someone approaching retirement who watches the market fall right before they plan to stop working. The portfolio may recover eventually. But certainty doesn't. And certainty is often what we were really saving for. This is why financial conversations sometimes become surprisingly emotional. They're rarely arguments about spreadsheets. They're arguments about hope. Here's where the system quietly shapes our emotions. Modern economies constantly encourage us to imagine better futures. Advertisements don't sell products. They sell versions of ourselves. The larger house. The dream vacation. Financial independence. Early retirement. The perfect family life. None of those ideas are inherently bad, but when we're surrounded by images of future success every single day, our brains begin treating those imagined futures as if they already belong to us. Behavioral economists call something similar the endowment effect. We value things more once we feel ownership over them. What's fascinating is that our minds can sometimes create that feeling before we ever own anything. We emotionally own a future that hasn't happened yet, so when inflation changes our plans. Quote. When layoffs interrupt our careers. When markets disappoint us. It doesn't just feel like missing out, it feels like something was taken away, even if it technically never existed. That's why financial grief can feel confusing. There's no funeral. No clear ending. No social permission to mourn. People simply expect you to move on. Smile at work. Update your resume. Budget better. Stay optimistic. Meanwhile, you're quietly trying to let go of a life you spent years believing was inevitable. That's exhausting. And because nobody calls it grief, many people mistake it for personal failure. But here's something worth thinking about. Sometimes the pain isn't coming from your financial situation. It's coming from the story you were told about how life was supposed to unfold. Study hard, get a stable job, buy a home, save consistently, retire comfortably. For previous generations, that path wasn't guaranteed, but it often felt achievable. Today, many people are doing almost everything right, while still feeling like they're falling behind. Housing costs have changed, careers have become less predictable. Technology reshapes industries almost overnight. Global events ripple through local budgets. The map changed. But many of us are still blaming ourselves for getting lost. That's a heavy burden to carry. Especially when the rules themselves keep changing. Financial grief also explains something else that often seems irrational. Why people sometimes stop looking at their bank accounts. Why they avoid investment apps. Why unopened bills sit on the kitchen table. From the outside, it looks irresponsible. Psychologically, it's often avoidance. The brain naturally avoids reminders of painful loss. Not because people don't care. Because they care deeply. Avoidance temporarily protects us from uncomfortable emotions. Unfortunately, it also delays recovery, not financially. Emotionally. Because healing usually begins when we're willing to look directly at reality instead of fighting the version of reality we wish still existed. That doesn't mean giving up. It means grieving honestly enough to move forward. There's an important difference. Acceptance isn't surrender. It's the moment you stop arguing with facts and start working with them. I think this is one of the quietest forms of financial maturity, not earning more, not picking better investments, learning how to release the futures that are no longer possible without believing your entire life has failed. Because here's the truth. Every financial journey includes losses that don't appear on a statement. Dreams delayed, plans rewritten, identities reshaped. Those invisible losses deserve acknowledgement. Otherwise, they quietly influence every decision we make. Sometimes they make us overly cautious. Sometimes they push us into desperate risks, trying to recover what we think we've lost. Both reactions are understandable. Neither is always helpful. The healthier response is slower. Ask yourself a different question. Instead of asking, how do I get back to the plan I had? Try asking, given the reality I have now, what future is still worth building? That question changes everything, because it shifts your attention away from recovering yesterday and toward creating tomorrow. It replaces comparison with curiosity. And curiosity is much lighter to carry than regret. Practically speaking, this might mean adjusting your retirement timeline instead of abandoning it, saving smaller amounts consistently instead of waiting for perfect conditions, having honest conversations with family about changing priorities, giving yourself permission to redefine success instead of endlessly chasing an outdated version of it. None of those decisions are exciting, but they're emotionally sustainable, and sustainability matters more than intensity, especially over decades. The financial world often celebrates confidence, but resilience is usually quieter. It's the person who keeps investing after disappointment. The family that adapts instead of pretending nothing changed. The worker who starts over without believing they're starting from zero. Resilience doesn't erase grief. It grows around it. Maybe that's the part we should talk about more, not just how to build wealth, but how to emotionally survive the moments when wealth doesn't grow the way we hoped. Because money isn't just mathematics. It's memory. It's expectation. It's identity. It's the stories we tell ourselves about tomorrow. And sometimes, when tomorrow changes, we're allowed to grieve. Not forever, but long enough to let go of the future that no longer exists. Only then can we notice something we often miss. The future was never a single destination. It was always something we were creating one decision at a time, and maybe real financial peace isn't believing everything will go according to plan. Maybe it's trusting that even when the plan changes, we still know how to build a meaningful life from where we are.